Hey folks, how are you guys today? I appreciate you joining me here on the Finance and Freedom YouTube channel. And I am your host, Chris. And I want to say, if this is your first time here, thanks for joining. I hope you will find this information in the video helpful. If you do, please like the video and consider subscribing for new content as it's made available. Also, you can go back and view some of our previous videos and see if there's any additional information there that you find helpful. So today's video is going to be kind of short, maybe. I don't intend for it to be a long one, but I did have some questions from some folks about the differences in ETFs, exchange traded funds, and mutual funds. And that's something we've talked about in the past in some of our other videos. But because I had the questions, we're going to address that one more time, okay? And that's not a problem. I'm happy to do that for you folks. So let's talk about the difference in ETFs and mutual funds. And there really aren't that many, because if you, excuse me, if you look at some of the mutual funds and the ETFs that are hosted, if you will, are run by mutual fund companies such as Schwab or Vanguard or Fidelity. Those are the particularly big names that people reference on a regular basis. You'll find that typically there is an ETF version and there's also a mutual fund version. Okay, now there are minor differences. I mean, if you've got apples to apples comparison, a lot of times those funds will have, for the large part, the same exact companies represented in the form of shares within that mutual fund or that ETF, okay? The major differences could be that there is a slight difference in the percentage of a company that the ETF holds versus what the mutual fund holds. Not always, but there can be very subtle differences in those percentages. The other thing to consider is that with mutual funds, when you buy a share of a mutual fund, it typically will settle out at the end of the business day, okay? ETFs, they're more like buying a stock on a stock brokerage or a stock platform where you can buy and sell company stock, right? So if you put in an order for an ETF at 10 o'clock in the morning and you want to market purchase or sell at market price a ETF that you own, then as soon as someone either agrees to that price in the form of a purchase and you sell it, or you're making a market order to purchase your own self an ETF that someone else is looking to sell at a price that you're agreeable to, then that happens right then and there. It doesn't wait until 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 3:30, 4:30 in the afternoon when Wall Street itself closes for the day for business. That ETF is either bought or sold right then and there. Now, that being said, if you put in a market or rather, if you put in an order for an ETF, much like you would for a stock for an individual company, let's just say Coca-Cola or Johnson & Johnson, and the going price at that point is, let's just give it an even $100 a share, okay? But you don't want to pay $100 for the share. You want to pay $80 for the share. And you could, if there's no one willing to sell you their shares at $80 each, you could sit there for quite some time waiting for someone to decide that that is a price that they're agreeable to. Because you can buy or sell at a price that you want to, not just necessarily the market price. If you want to sell at market price, it's going to happen, like I say, instantaneously almost. But if you're wanting to, really cut it down to a price that you think is a bargain, you might be sitting there for a while, okay? And that's the way it is with ETFs. Now with mutual funds, again, mutual funds settle at the end of the business day. So whether if you're looking to buy a mutual fund at $100 a share and you put in the order to purchase that, and the going price is $100, then you're going to get that as long as you have the money available to purchase those shares. But it's not going to happen until the end of the business day for Wall Street. So if you put in that purchase order at 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get whatever you get at the end of the day. So if the stock goes up from $100 to $105 per share, then you're going to get it at $105 a share, which means that you're going to get less number of shares for that particular mutual fund, okay? And I say shares, I'm just trying to equate it to ETFs and regular stocks so that it's a little bit, apples to apples. If you put in that order for a mutual fund and right now it's at $100 and you say, well, I want to buy 10 shares, so I'm going to use $1,000 of my savings for that, and the price goes down, then you're going to actually get more of the shares, again, for that mutual fund than you would have if you had paid 100 or 105. So those are really the big differences. There is one other difference that a lot of people may or may not be aware of, but there are companies, again, Schwab, Vanguard, and Fidelity are the big three on everybody's tip of their tongue. But some companies, when it comes to ETFs, do not sell partial shares. Now, I'm not going to tell you which ones they are because, at the time that you're going to watch this video, it may not be true anymore. If you have a favorite mutual fund or ETF company, check directly with them to find out whether or not they are offering the purchase of partial shares of your favorite ETF. Now, that being said, if you can buy partial shares of the ETF you want, then it doesn't matter if you put in $100 to buy a $200 ETF, or if you put in $200 to buy a $200 share of an ETF, because you're going to get the even numbers. But if the ETF that you're looking at is priced at $175 and you've only got $200, or rather, let's say that you got $100 and the share price is $175. If you are able to buy partial shares, then you will get a partial share of that $175 per share ETF. If that particular company does not allow partial share purchases, then you're going to have to save a little bit more money before you can buy that one full share of that ETF at $175. So what I'm telling you is there are some companies that will sell you an ETF in partial shares and some that will not. Again, at the time that you're watching this video, I don't know who that might be. So I'm not giving you financial advice, except that it's best to call your favorite mutual fund company or your favorite ETF company and ask them, hey, can I buy partial shares with you? And find the company that you're happy to work with, if that is your major criteria for working with them, is the ability to buy partial shares of an ETF. Now that comes to the other major differences between ETFs and mutual funds, and that is with a mutual fund, regardless of how much money that you have, you're going to be able to put that amount of money into that mutual fund. Now, that there is generally a stipulation that if you are making an initial purchase with a mutual fund, they may require that you have a certain amount of money available before you can make your initial purchase. And with Vanguard and a lot of the mutual funds that they have, It's about $3,000 as of the making of this video. Okay, there are one or two mutual funds that they have that you can get in with as little as $1,000, but typically it's about $3,000. Now, if you've already got an account established with them and you've got $3,000 in your favorite mutual fund with that mutual fund company, in this case, this scenario, Vanguard, then you can put in probably as little as $1 in each additional purchase because it is a mutual fund. Right now, at the time of this video, I don't think Vanguard is allowing partial purchases or the partial purchase of shares in an ETF. So you would have to put in the exact amount of money necessary for a purchase of a share of that ETF, whatever your favorite one is, okay? Now, if you are with other companies, certainly there's probably not a requirement, but again, it's best if you check with them and find out what that requirement is, okay? So those are your major differences between mutual funds and ETFs. A couple of popular ones. I was asked to briefly talk about that. Everybody likes the S&P 500. You get the top 500 most profitable, perhaps, companies in the U.S. stock market, hence the name S&P 500, Standard & Poor's. I will tell you that it's not exactly 500 from one time period to another. It might be 503 or it might be 501. But I will tell you that it is a very popular fund, a very good way for the average person to begin their investment journey. Again, if you get the mutual fund version, let's say with Vanguard, you need about $3,000 to start. Schwab has one. It's called the SWPPX, if I'm not mistaken. It is a mutual fund, not an ETF. So there are no requirements to open an account and start putting money into it other than you need to have $1. That's it, $1. If you can put $1 in there, you can open an account and you can have an S&P 500 stock with them. Fidelity also has one that's called a zero fund, so there are no fees whatsoever. I believe at the time of the making this video and talking with you about it, they do require a $1 investment for that particular ETF. But other than that, that's it. Their big thing is they're offering you that because it is an incentive for you to open an account with them and perhaps buy some of their other funds which may have a more expense ratio that once you get into it, you're going to be paying a little bit of money for the maintenance of that fund, okay? So you could start with an S&P 500 fund, or if you want to go hog wild and buy the entire mutual fund industry in the United States, then a total stock market fund would also be a potential good fund to get into. Vanguard particularly has one. Most mutual fund companies do. The total stock market mutual fund with Vanguard is very good. Again, $3,000 to get started. They also have an ETF version that you could get into as well. The maintenance fees are approximately the same. Again, those actually go up and down periodically, so it's best to check into that on your own. Yeah, you could essentially own the entire stock market of the United States by buying just that one share of that total stock market index fund. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you. If so, again, hopefully that you will consider subscribing. I look forward to being with you again next week or the next time we make another video. And I wish you guys a good rest of your day, morning, or evening, whenever it is that you're watching this. Thanks a lot, and I hope you have a great rest of it. Bye-bye.